Welcome to episode 8, the first day after the debate. We have a lot to talk about. For those of you who didn't watch the debate, we're going to cover it pretty in depth, I think, or hopefully from all three sides. A lot's also happened, though. We have Trump's tax revelations. I'd like to talk about that. And we also have some quick hitters, some memes, and some funny stuff. So welcome to episode 8, and the shit show discussion can start off here. Before we get started, Chris, Nate, you guys have anything you want to say? Or I can throw up my first meme to get it started light.
Just remind people, we have, for posterity, or whether you're watching live right now, if you find this, funny, insightful, or whatever it is, just go ahead and share it with people. It'll help us a lot. We haven't really kicked into high gear yet. We've been practicing and putting all this together, and I think we've come pretty far, but we have some plans to kick things up into high gear pretty soon. We'll talk more about that at some point in the future. But for now, we'll take anything we can get. So if you want to share this with somebody or like it, it'd be great. Leave a comment. That helps too.
Yeah, like, subscribe. Yeah, hopefully we'll start pushing this and advertising and all that stuff soon, but we're still kind of getting our feet underneath us. So.
Yep.
All right, so let me get the first meme here. I think I need to do this first. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I saw that. Okay, so we're memeing the thing we're about to talk about after we get to get through the first segment here, but Trump. I can't really talk about it too much, but Trump really dropped the ball. Depending on how you look at it, it's I'm sure for Chris's crowd, it was an absolute confirmation that Trump is a white supremacist. But for people like me, we just put our head in our hands and we're just crying a little bit. He could have hit a slam dunk right there, but now he's just made all the jobs that much harder.
Total white supremacy vibes right there. Total.
Sure, buddy.
Yeah, I don't
know, man. What's it gonna take for your side to admit that Trump's a racist? Does he need to come out with like his grandpa's KKK outfit?
We'll talk about it later. I'll bring it up during the podcast or during the segment where we talk about the debate. I promise.
Have you guys seen this scene in Friends, like how it plays out?
Huh?
Have you ever seen this scene in Friends? What the meme is based on?
Yeah, I have. I don't know if people.
It's pretty funny if you haven't.
Maybe some of our.
I haven't seen Friends, unfortunately.
Oh, it's good stuff, man. You gotta watch it.
Yeah,
gotta watch it. I know this is on topic, so I didn't expect a long conversation, but I saw this one and thought,
right,
how can I pass it up?
Try not to do the big reveal too early here.
Yeah. I actually have another one if you guys don't, so pull up what you got. But
I think Chris had something. I'll go after Chris too. I do have something.
I got you. So this is a niche meme. I hope that you guys are able to enjoy it. You guys ever play RuneScape?
Yeah.
All right, so right here we got. Let me make this bigger so you guys can see it in its full glory. Come on, there we go. So the topic is buying gold wrong, and you see Biden laughing in like this rune plate that he earned, and then Trump with like a $200 million party hat in the game, basically insinuating it's like, is buying gold wrong? Trump's is out here like, I have the gold, like. Wow, it's really funny if you ever played RuneScape. It hits the childhood vibes.
I never played it, so
it's making a comeback. It's making a comeback.
Yeah, apparently there's a mobile version of it that you're playing. I haven't played that game in a long time.
I even went viral on one of these meme pages. I posted a thing and it had like 800 likes. I was like, wow, this is. I've made it. Like, hey, ma, I made it.
Yeah, to be fair, every subreddit on Reddit, like political or not, had a meme about the presidential debate. So,
yeah, you couldn't get around it, man.
No, you couldn't, and there is no getting away from this because this is real life now. So if you saw it, this is real life. This debate, this is actually the country now. So I hope we're all have a good sense of humor. Otherwise, we're going to be crying.
It's definitely some Rick and Morty level like humor where it's just like,
yeah.
wow, everything's depressing, but I guess we might as well laugh at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So here's mine. So a little while back, I don't remember if the three of us were discussing it, or if it was just me and Tim after hours. But I was going pretty hard on the conservative conspiracy theories about Black Lives Matter, and one of the things was I think we were talking about it. One of the things that I said is that Black Lives Matter had, and I said pretty much I quoted, or quoting me, I said right in their charter they have attacks on the nuclear family, like they're committed to the destruction of the nuclear family. And Tim was, he was like, doing his job as the centrist and called me out. He said, bullshit, show me. And so, we go to the website and I'm scrolling around and my face is getting a little bit redder. I'm like, I know I saw this. I know this is somewhere out here. I think I'm just in the wrong spot. So I happened across this article. This was actually a couple weeks ago now. Oh, no, it's about a week ago now. So it turns out that I was actually right. So the headline says, Black Lives Matter site removes page on nuclear family structure amid NFL vets criticism. Now, if I remember correctly, there was a line that was specifically dedicated to tearing down the nuclear structure, right? And it's all part of the sort of like the new critical theories, like all of the various theories, race and gender and all that stuff. How all of the systems that we have in place are part of the old oppressive patriarchy that's inherently racist. And so like they sort of just had it on their website as a sort of like a general charter thing where they wanted to destroy the nuclear family and stuff. So
they want to destroy it?
They want to dismantle the nuclear family. Right. They don't like the system because it's inherently patriarchal.
Yeah, can you define nuclear?
Yeah, what does that mean? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's not my philosophy, man. No,
even about is it right or wrong? Like dismantling the nuclear family. So what? Taking kids away from their parents, or only allowing single parent families? Like, what does it mean to dismantle the nuclear family? What are they saying they wanted to do? What I would have assumed that page was something like that, having a nuclear family is not, required for success or whatever. But not that they wanted to go out and dismantle it for everybody else.
So like I said, so it's part of a broader discussion, right? So the far left, the intellectuals on the far left, they have a very big problem with power structures or hierarchies, right? You could use the two terms two words and terms interchangeably. And one of the hierarchies that they have a problem with is the nuclear family, right? Because they think it's patriarchal. So I don't know what their solution exactly was for that, but they did have it on their website that they wanted to tear it down. So
yeah, I'll have to look into it, get more info, or if you can send me some.
Yeah, and we will eventually.
Not making sense.
We will at some point in the future eventually do something on critical race theory and intersectionality and all that stuff. It should be a pretty big podcast. We haven't gotten to it yet.
To be fair, one thing that if I can comment on this, that we may be in more agreement with than I would be on other people on the side of the left, but you actually mentioned this in an earlier podcast. There's a good reason to say. Now, I'm not here for this patriarchal household bullshit, but I am here for the idea of having a two-family household, right? Like having two dads or two moms or mom and dad. Like the reality is having a joint income family really does directly correlate into having like your kids have a better life.
Right. Yeah. That sounds pretty patriarchal of you, honestly.
All right. So I looked up this article you have, and I think it's important to read the line that they removed. It says, "We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable."
Right. So if I use the C word, is anybody going to freak out?
Does it end with an hunt? What's the C word?
Communism.
Oh, that's way
literally
less insulting.
Literally.
What's wrong with communism?
I guess if Native Indians are communist, or all of our hunter-gatherer, earlier cultures are communist.
So yeah, I know you got so tired of the racism thing so fast that we stopped doing those podcasts pretty early on. We should dip our toes back into it because I got there's a lot of things that I should be saying that you won't believe me because you're just going to be like staring at the tinfoil hat on my head. But like postmodern neo-Marxism, like there's a whole bunch of stuff to delve into with this. Like but the modern left, like all of the crazy stuff you see, actually has roots in actual Marxism. Right.
This particular, well, it says the creator of BLM on that page that you have pulled up is Marxist. So, I mean, there should obviously be some Marxism there. But, you know, when I read this and based on what you said, you know, the BLM wants to destroy the nuclear family, remove the nuclear family. That's not what it said. It said that, you know, their beliefs are more in an extended family and the village type thing where everyone supports everyone. Again. I just did. It says we don't believe in the nuclear family requirements of the Western culture, meaning like you can do it another way also. Not they're coming out and saying you can't do it this way. Right? At least that's how I read it. But the point is, I'm not saying I agree with it either. But the point is that to me is a little different than saying they want to come out and destroy the nuclear family. And
okay, so but you have to pair that with the fact that
communist.
You have to pair that with the fact that these are the social utopians. Like what they want for everybody.
I mean, can you deny that that's actually socially more conservative than the nuclear family? Considering that's how most societies were before we emerged out of like stone tools and hunter-gatherer era. So from your definition of conservative of doing it the way, you know, we used to or we've always done it in the past, that's a more conservative approach to family.
Yeah, but that's a bit of a sleight of hand. I mean,
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I know.
So, anyway,
I'll be quite honest. I just was, while you guys were talking, I was listening in and just like refreshed my mind up on nuclear family. Yeah. I think when it comes to patriarchal, it's like when we're looking at the gender roles in this whole thing, like should the dad be like the breadwinner? Should the mom be the caretaker? And I would argue those roles should and can be reversed, but I am on the side of the fence that, you know, having a 2-family household, I don't know, dude, have a 3-family household, have like a whole, like, you know, what is it when you have like multiple people, like a poly family where you have like 2 dads and a mom or 2 moms and a dad. Like the reality is the more incomes you have in a household, the better off your kids are going to be. That's pretty much how it goes. We also just want to make sure we're having the means for people to actually have the support structures to develop a family in the first place.
Yeah, like I said, I don't agree or disagree with getting rid of nuclear family. That's how I grew up. I think it works. It's what our culture is. I don't want to get rid of it, but I also think people should be free to live how they want.
Interesting point that you made. It's like I didn't even think of this, but I absolutely did not grow up with a nuclear family. I had a nuclear family in the literal sense, where it was like a nuclear bomb. But
yeah,
I definitely when I have a kid, or if I choose to have a kid, I don't know yet. I know I'm gonna, you know, want to have a 2-parent household with my girlfriend. Like that's something. Fiance, wife in the future, like these are things that actually really matter to me. I would want to.
Did you just propose on stream?
Oh shit! I was not looking. That's not where it's supposed to
be. That's funny. Yeah. Well, okay. So all right. So to your point, it's not necessarily a great evil not having the prescribed family. Right. It's you can there's many ways to skin a cat, but like as Chris said, it is best if there are 2 parents in the household. And I'm a biological essentialist, not to out myself, but I generally believe that there is a difference between men and women, temperamentally speaking, and that they are better suited to certain roles. But that's not always the case. This is America. You can do whatever the heck you want, just as long as you're not abusing your kids in any way. So, like, I will acknowledge it. You're free to do what you want, but the thing is that you're free to do what you want right now. What they're talking about is social engineering. Like they want to engineer society.
You are not free to do what you want right now. You can't have polygamous families according to the government. You can't
Not
file
legally.
taxes with
They
multiple.
do it anyways.
Yeah, not legally. So you're not free to do it. It's against
it's
the
not
law.
illegal to cohabitate. So they still do it. It's just not a legal marriage. They can't file taxes. Which, I mean, I guess.
They should be able
It's
to
not legal. People
be able
get
to file
prosecuted
taxes.
for it. It is not legal. I saw it on Boston Legal once. I know.
Boston Legal? I haven't seen that show in a while.
When I was
Holy cow.
out for surgery, I was running out of shows to watch, and I watched like 4 seasons of it.
What are you saying? That was at the bottom of your list, not the top?
I just didn't know if it existed.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right.
So
so
I have another one.
Yeah, I guess enough on that.
Let's check out my new technology and see if it works.
Have politics mixed with the movies, and it's been done before, I
Can you guys
guess, a
hear?
little
Okay.
bit, but it was a little bit unusual to see that.
Yeah.
But I do like her. I think she's terrific.
She's talking
We want to know
about
a little bit
Obama.
more about you guys. So we play this game here. It's called Fave 5. I'll ask the question. Ivanka, you answer first, and then Dad, you answer also.
This is tough.
Okay, Ivanka, what's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
Oh my god. Timothy, this is a channel for children.
Ooh.
Thoughts?
He's almost as creepy as Biden.
He's more creepy.
Almost. Dude,
Yeah.
he literally just tried to. No, there's no way. He's light years ahead of Biden in the creepy game.
Yeah, I'll put together a compilation sometime. We'll play it on the
But
stream.
you know what my favorite thing is? Can I just comment on that? Is yeah, there's definitely there's some weird shit that Biden's done. He sniffed some people's hair. He's given some like weird like chin touches. But to be fair, he has the grandpa energy, and like I've definitely seen older grandpa people do this type of stuff. Also, there's one video in particular, or one screenshot, and I'll have to pull it up, that I see conservatives hijacking. Is this one of like, Biden like looming over, and he kisses like this girl on the head, and people are like, wow, that's creepy. It's his freaking niece at a funeral. He's like comforting his niece who just like lost, or his granddaughter who just lost his her father, his son. Like he's literally comforting his granddaughter, and people are like, oh, Biden is too creepy. Like, come on. Like,
Right,
he's not
so-
talking
okay,
about
so
sex with
look,
his
so we got-
granddaughter.
Hey, you got us. We got one wrong, right? What about all the other like 15 ones where he's like trying to kiss the little girl and she's just like, get away from me. Don't touch me.
What about
And
the
he's just
ones
like,
where
I mean, like Trump at all the Miss Universe pageants and things.
literally there's a picture of Trump like holding this like tiny 10-year-old
I
girl,
know.
like holding her like Simba, and she's like,
yeah, you're right. That one just came out pretty recently. But hey, did you hear that that Biden used to hit on people's wives at the Christmas parties? Yeah, some of the Secret Service guys, like one of them got in a fight with him. Mm-hmm. Yep, because he was hitting on his wife.
Trump paid a hooker to keep her mouth shut because of an
All
affair.
right.
but you know what Biden's never done?
Or
He's
prostitute,
He's never
porn
said
star.
grab them by the pussy and the Access Hollywood.
Demonetized.
Wait. He said they let you do it. That sounds like the essence of consent to me.
Because
That sounds
they let
pretty
you do
odd.
it because you're
Wow.
famous. They let you do it because you're the
sounds like-
king.
Look,
and they don't
okay, all
have
right.
any
I'm not
other-
actually morally defending it. It's just not as bad as everybody makes it out to be. He is fucking rich. So people want to sleep with him. So they let him do it. So I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. It's just like we're all like morally outraged, like we don't know this happens to billionaires.
What about all of the sexual assault allegations he's literally settled out of court with?
What about the one against Joe Biden?
It was
He did it once
completely
too.
unsubstantiated. I did my research on this.
Oh.
Unsubstantiated. The person dropped the charges. The lawyer actually stopped pursuing the case because, like, wait, there's actually no grounding. And I just want to say, she was basically saying that it occurred in Dirksen Senate building. And Dirksen has been an unchanged building since the time that, Joe Biden was in the Senate, which is where his office would have been.
Mhm.
There in the corridor that she was saying that it had occurred in is the right where, it would have had been impossible for him to have sexually assaulted her there. Having worked there, having been there, I genuinely am saying, I'm not trying to, I believe women, right? I believe women. all day. If you actually go in this area,
What if they're wrong?
It would have been impossible for where she said it to have occurred. You have to go there, Nathan. Sometimes all three of us, we're gonna squat up when this pandemic's over.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm down.
I'm gonna take you guys to the Senate Underground. I'm gonna show you, and you'll be like, "All right, yeah, you're right."
We'll have to live stream it. We'll probably get shot for it.
The level of traffic, the level. Also, she said she filed a report. They were never able to find this report, right? Like it never came up.
Didn't her mom go on the Jon Stewart show like a week later and say my daughter was sexually assaulted?
Her mom and then a friend who was a neighbor. It's like, and then the reality is
they pulled the episode. Like they pulled the episode from the archives as soon as the allegations came out.
There was,
as it deleted
yes.
The reality is it's unsubstantiated. There's no report that she said she made. She said she filed a report with.
It sounds like Biden's better at covering his shit up than Trump, and that's what I want in office. I don't want to know about it. Okay? I want it to be covered up. I don't want to have to smell it.
Right. We don't want all the dirt
Trump
out
is
in the
shitting
open.
all over the place.
It reminds me of like when Trump will just be like, "Yeah, we're in Syria. We kept the oil. Is that okay? We kept the oil." Like, what do you mean? Give the oil back. What are you keeping oil for? That's literally like my entire generation was raised on stop stealing people's oil in the Middle East. Like,
it's just not like trying to get your votes. Your generation generally doesn't vote for them.
That's true. Chris, what's wrong with me? Why am I like this?
Dude, I don't know, man. You drink the patriarchal Kool-Aid.
Oh, God. Yeah. It tastes good. Hairy legs, like Biden. All right.
I'm out of memes.
Okay. I think we can, what time is it? 8:30? I mean, we started kind of on time. We could probably forge ahead here. We could probably start talking about the debate.
I'd say let's go for it. I'm
Do you guys want to do debate first or taxes first? I feel like the debate will go on for longer, so it could run over.
I feel like we should do the debate first so we can flex if we're having a real good time with it and run into the taxes time. Because, I mean, I think taxes might be pretty quick. So only so long we can stretch that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking is start off with that so we get it out of the way. But we can add it on the end if we have time.
Yeah, let's do that.
No worries.
All right, so first impressions. So I hope everybody out there watched the debate. It was an hour and a half long. There's only so much we're going to be able to get to. We're going to pretty much have to do highlights, impressions. We're going to end up talking about some of the issues. We'll probably get into a little bit of fact checking, like we'll say he said such and such, and then Chris and I will disagree. But I just want to point out this is not like a three-way conversation here. This is a 2-on-1 because when it comes to Tim and Trump, it's just as much of a no-go as with Chris. So
according to Trump, the debate was a 2-on-1 as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I don't know about that. Let's start with that. Let's start with neutral territory. What did we think about Chris Wallace?
I think he tried real hard.
Yeah. I think he was a phenomenal moderator. I mean, you can't have you couldn't have asked for a better setup. You have Chris Wallace, a Fox News commentator on another channel. You have this neutrality that's going on. You can't ask for more than that in terms of unbiased conditions for this. He told them both to tone it down, but the reality is also Trump was steamrolling at a really high level.
Yeah, he was.
And that's going to cause the moderator to be like, dude, I have a job to do, and that's telling you to shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of my guys were saying it was they said that, unironically, I think even Ben Shapiro said it. And I know you guys are, even Ben Shapiro, obviously he did it. No, but
Ben Shapiro's generally, more recently he hasn't been, but historically he's been pretty realistic.
Right. So he thought this whole thing was a shit show, but he definitely, even he was doing the 2-on-1 where, where it's Chris Wallace and Joe Biden against Trump. But I didn't really see that coming away from it last night. First of all, there was points where I was just laughing because if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. But I thought he did pretty well. And my God, trying to rein in Trump is just impossible. I mean, the man he's just a bull in a china closet. I don't know. He just kept going. No?
Yeah, it was ugly, man. I think Chris Wallace did an okay job. I don't know that he could have done better. It's not his fault. I think he asked fair questions
I think so too.
and probing questions to both sides. He wasn't throwing up softballs, to one side or the other.
Well, so to the, let's say, to the right's credit, and of course I always give credit to the right. To the right's credit, he
They
did
need
not.
you to give it to him.
What's that?
I said it's because they need you to give it to them.
Yeah, right. Because how
Can't
else?
earn it on their own.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep interrupting you, by the way, all podcasts, just to be like Trump.
I know. I gotta maybe drink less so that I can be more on my toes. But okay, listen. I'll just finish my point up real quick. So he didn't hold Biden to the fire a lot of times now, and it's because to be fair, he was fighting Trump a lot of the times, so he had to move on where he could. But like, I can't remember what the specific question was, but he asked Biden something. Biden gave a blatant lie. I don't remember what the topic was. I'll probably think about it in a bit here. And then Chris Wallace just kind of let him walk away with it. Whereas Chris Wallace was appropriately recharging the questions to Trump where he needed to. I thought, where Trump was pivoting, he would try to get him back on track.
I saw him do that a couple times to Biden. The biggest one that I felt like he let Biden go on was early on, and it was the stacking the courts question.
The biggest one he let him go on? Yeah, that was one of the points I was going to talk about.
Yeah, and so that one I think he could have pressed harder, tried to push for an answer. But Biden had already made a statement that he's not going to answer the question. It wasn't like he was trying to skirt around it and not give an answer. He answered it by saying, I'm not going to answer it. So I kind of see where he didn't push there. But I only saw him push on Trump hard once or twice. One of them being the white supremacy thing, trying to get him to denounce it. And I don't actually recall what the exact other one was. So I don't think he pushed on either one too hard.
What do you think, Chris? About Chris?
Yeah, I think relatively like what you're saying. I think that had Trump harped himself on this one. Had Trump not required so much energy, you would have seen Biden thrown into the fire a bit. Because it's not like Chris Wallace didn't ask hard questions. He asked Biden the court stacking questions. He asked him plans regarding the coronavirus shutdowns. He asked him. There was another I just had in my mind, and I hate that it's gone. But I do feel like Biden got some pretty heavy questions thrown his way. I think that we would have seen more pressure on him had Trump not required like the reining in that he clearly needed.
I agree. I think rule number one when you're debating somebody, let them answer the question so you can debunk it. Right? Let them throw out the rope that they're going to hang themselves with. And he just had no chill. I don't know. Who did you guys think won?
I do feel, to be honest, I'll say this is not just because like obviously I'm biased on this, but no, Biden without a doubt won this debate because when you look at his performance, he was going at this in a very critical way. He was going at this to show he wanted the contrast to be there. You have Trump who looks like you said, a bull in a china shop. And that's what Biden wanted to show. He wanted to show the bull in the china shop while also not losing his own ability to speak. Like he told Trump to shut up. He also, there was moments he cleared out and was like just speaking directly to the American people. He was very much trying to show like this is what a Biden presidency would look like. Calm, coherent, strong, but also not rampagey. And so that clear contrast was drawn because the reality is I didn't even hear Trump answer a lot of questions that were thrown his way. I saw him stomp over a lot of Biden's. And also when we look at the results, the reality is Biden wasn't entirely honest in his responses. There was a few ones that he had incorrect.
Yep.
Trump does have a plan for coronavirus. That was a wrong claim on Biden's end. However, with that being said, there was significantly more wrongful accounts on Trump's end, and I'm happy to go through those as we go through the podcast. But in terms
I've
of
got
honesty,
some specific issues I want to talk about too. So we can
honesty
definitely
and
do
composure.
that.
But honesty and composure is what I was looking at, and to me, Biden cleared the stage on that.
Well, so I talked to a lot of people have told me, and I've heard it said on my side. A lot of people liked Trump's tone, and it's not all of the over talking. Like everybody agreed that Trump needed to rein it in a bit, but as far as his tone and his commanding presence and the way that he took it to Biden, like when appropriate, again, not all the time when he's just talking over his turn. I mean, a lot of times it seemed to me that I know you thought Biden came out looking good, but a lot of times there's a couple things. Biden would very often he stared into the camera, and it seemed to me like he was staring into the camera and doing this thing where he's like, "I'm talking directly to you, the American people," and it felt to me like he was doing that because he actually couldn't speak to Trump. Like he couldn't actually. I mean, he obviously yes he could speak to him, but like. He's not on his best footing when he's speaking directly to Biden. But like there was times when Trump was there was one particular time when Trump was going at Biden with I don't remember what the issue was, but he just kept saying like point after point after point, and he was just drilling it into Biden, and Biden was literally doing like he was making that sound into the microphone because he like his brain couldn't really take what was coming in.
Also,
to me,
keep in mind that
like really bad.
Biden has a legitimate speech impediment. For him to like speak, like he needs to like take a moment.
Yeah, but didn't he get over that? Like, wasn't that his big story? Was this like he overcame his speech impediment, and now it's all of a sudden coming back?
Stutter. I thought
a stutter. Yes,
it's a stutter.
Yeah, I don't
think
actually know.
you
Like,
ever
I'm not
overcome
trying
it.
to.
It's something I know a guy who had one. I went to high school with him, and it doesn't go away. It's just you learn
come back
how
in high stress moments.
Yeah, you learn how to try and work around it. What kind of words trigger it? What thought processes trigger it?
And,
How to slow your thinking down so that you don't get ahead of yourself. Things like that. So it takes a lot of focus and mental energy, from my understanding.
and to be fair,
continue
sorry,
speaking
Tim.
clearly.
No, but to be fair too, the point that you're recalling on the debate was when I recall 2 times that it happened. One of them was specifically when Trump was railing into him about his son. He's like $3.5 million, $3.5 million,
Yep.
and then a few minutes later, Biden starts bringing up, he's trying to tell a story about his son that he lost to like brain cancer, and Trump's
that wasn't a few minutes later. That was a direct response to Trump's trying to assault Hunter.
Yeah, he was bringing up his family, and it was just like, that was messed up to me. That was like, and also to be fair, I read the Senate.
Give a little context. Tell him. Try to figure out. Tell the audience what Biden was trying to say.
So basically, what's going on here is that you have this Senate Republicans have a majority on the Senate Finance Committee, and so therefore the Republican senators only published a report, which also is misleading because it makes it look like it came out of the Senate Finance Committee. It didn't. It came out of Republicans on the Senate Finance Committee, basically claiming that Hunter Biden received $3.5 million from the Ukraine. And it's actually incredibly wrong. It's not actually what the report says at all either. I'm happy to show you guys the report. I read it. It's like a 50-page document. And basically what it does is it outlines a company that Hunter Biden worked for, he served on a board for, and that company happened to receive a $3 million payment that was then revoked and sent back. And it actually explicitly says that in the report. It explicitly never says, and it also all is based on one person's testimony the entire time. So this report gets published, and if you actually read it, it never once claims that Hunter Biden received this money. But that's the way that Trump was making it come off of. So what Biden's trying to tell everybody is like, one, his son is his own person. His son can do whatever he wants. His son is a consultant. Maybe he makes $400,000 or $500,000 a year consulting. It isn't. That's not wrong, right? Like Trump's kids make tons of money doing things, right? Like it's not. These are other private citizens doing their thing. So
according to his tax return,
right,
Trump pays his kids as consultants.
But also one last thing. Hunter Biden also wasn't, and this was a stab. He was discharged from the military for drug problems, but it was not a dishonorable discharge. You can look that up as well. That was a false claim. And the reality is Biden came right out. He's like, look, my son has problems with drugs. My son struggles with addiction, right? Or has had addiction. And it's just like, come on, dude. It's like, we're talking about policy here. Like I'm not calling out. A lot of people on my side of the aisle, we're civil with Trump's kids. We know not to go there. Now, granted, Eric Trump is too easy to make fun of, so Saturday Night Live is going to go after that. But like, we're not going after people for like their children's drug problems or whatnot. Or their kid who has a brain tumor and died, and then Trump it was messed up. That was like super low blows for me.
I think while it is not necessary, so it's never really appropriate when politicians go after this stuff, but it's like politicians can do this and do it well. Trump is not a politician though. So like instead of like vaguely alluding to it, he just hammers it for about 3 or 4 minutes straight. It doesn't make it right, but it's like, I mean, politicians do this, right?
You're defending it like it's okay because he's not a politician. He's not doing things. He's attacking him personally. He's attacking his family personally. He's not focusing on how good of a president he's going to be, on the issues that he brings to the presidency, and how he's going to be able to do things for the American people or not. And he didn't really focus on what he is going to do. He spent all of his time interrupting and
but
disrupting.
Do you think it's relevant? Do you think it's not relevant that all of so and I don't have specifics on all of it, but I mean, at least Hunter Biden, we know, is getting running around getting rich as soon as Joe Biden is vice president. Like, you don't think that's kind of weird?
So then we should go and attack all of Trump's kids.
No, they had businesses prior.
Okay, yeah, but now they're all involved in the government. Now they're all holding high positions, not all,
right,
but
and they're losing oodles of money doing it.
Government.
They were already way rich without this. They don't need to be in the government to get this money.
It's about their ability to do the job.
Yeah. Trump's kids are making a ton of money from their public exposure, and just saying they're already rich is not a fair assessment. It's like, all right, since they're already rich, might as well do some shady shit to get richer. I think also there's a critical thing.
But you have to demonstrate the shady shit.
But Biden is not his son. Biden is Joe Biden. And so, yes, his son got a consulting. You don't think it's relevant then? I don't. I believe that his son clearly had drug problems. He was struggling, and he capitalized on his dad's social capital, got a gig because people probably thought that they were going to get favors out of him. They clearly didn't get favors out of him because he was fired from all these things. And yeah, that's it. He tried to capitalize on his dad's social capital, made some money as a consultant, and
so I mean, he did. So Hunter Joe Biden flew with him, I believe, on Air Force 1 or 2 or whatever the heck it is, to China, where Hunter got like $1 billion deal from a Chinese bank. Like, that is verified as far as I understand. I haven't heard anybody debunk that.
So Hunter Biden is a billionaire.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Maybe it was millions, but it was a lot of money. I'm sorry. I don't have the exact numbers. I'll pull the story up at some point.
It would be nice to have some real facts behind these accusations, because it's basically going back and watching what Trump did in the debate and just make shit up and say whatever he wants. These things should be verified before we believe them.
I agree, but I am also here to tell you what the right is thinking, and this is what the right thinks. Make sense?
Yeah, I'm doing some Googling right now, and it's really tricky, because where it comes down to is that hang on 1 second. I just want to make sure my camera's not too glitchy, and my Wi-Fi is not right now. But where it comes down to is that Hunter Biden worked for companies. He worked for a private equity firm, and that private equity firm got a significant amount of money from China. That doesn't mean that Hunter Biden got it. It also means that some dumbass in China put a bunch of money into a private equity firm because they thought they were going to get a favor with the presidency, and they didn't.
Yeah, that's really shady. That is really shady. I think I know you would have a problem if that was any of Trump's kids.
No, they're all doing it.
Okay, but that is a vague accusation, right, buddy?
Yeah.
They're all doing it.
I'm just trying to hop on the bandwagon here.
I'm just telling you what the right thing's.
I'm not saying I'm a fan of it, but what I'm saying is that his son is not Joe Biden. Like, clearly this kid like has some problems and took advantage of his dad and his family's like social capital that was built up. And that's an in-house problem. Obviously, Joe Biden hasn't benefited from this. The dude literally was like, all 47 years he was a senator, he lived off of his Senate salary. You can look up his tax returns. It's not until he started writing books that he made money. And that's just like, is what it is. That's how people make their money when they're in politics. They write a book. But it's not like Joe Biden was benefiting from whatever wealth his son perceivably had.
And second to that, that's not even what was discussed for some of it. Like, talking about his son being discharged from the military due to drugs and things. What does that have to do with it?
I don't know.
Hey, you're a bad father. So
failure as a father, I guess. I don't know. It's like I already said. It's not necessarily relevant, but like if you're trying to paint a negative portrait of somebody, that's a pretty rich mind to vein. So I understand why he did it.
I think it would have worked in the opposite. There's a lot of people that have kids or know others that have drug issues, and to tear somebody down because of that. And especially because of them supporting their kid going through that, would put a negative taste in a lot of people's mouths. It would have mine if all my taste for him wasn't already gone.
I guess. I think there's probably something to be said for the fact that cocaine is like a rich white person's drug, stereotypically. So he's trying to paint him as not just as a druggie, but sort of an elitist druggie.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so... All right. I mean, I guess we did enough of that.
Wait. So real quick, I just want to be annoying. Sure. So Wall Street Journal, relatively conservative news network, wrote a whole publication on this. And so Hunter Biden serves as a board member for a private equity firm. He does own a share in this firm, but being on the board is an unpaid position. He makes about $400,000 a year from the firm. So to be honest, the reality is, look at like, not to use this as a caveat, but like, you know, maybe for us, 400 grand isn't a lot of money, but the reality is in the wealthy and the elites, a lot of their kids are making this type of money. Even if Joe Biden wasn't like a senator, these are normal things for like the wealthy elites to be doing. I think it's problematic. We should tax the hell out of them. This is what consultancy does. I have a friend right now making $200,000 a year doing consulting, and he's 25, right? Like, by the time he's in his 40s, he's going to be making that much money, right?
Is he qualified?
So not an abnormal thing.
Is he qualified for the job he's doing?
According to your stance on capitalism, if he's getting paid, he's qualified.
I'm not down with
it would adjust accordingly.
I'm not down with crony capitalism.
My friend has a bachelor's degree from an Ivy League. That's how much, and that's all he has. No master's, nothing else. In like psychology. Nothing related to consulting, but he's really good at.
So, like, my point is that it's either shady or it's not, and it's either wrong or it's not, and I disagree with it wherever it's not warranted. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I guess all right, we've hit that one hard enough.
Do you guys? Let's talk about the their health plans. I got a clip that I can show. And we can talk about the clip.
President elected to the next during election. That period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years.
Sorry, this one's not healthcare.
Yeah, that's the wrong one. Let's go in the seat.
The 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very happy with.
That's simply not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion. Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won, we're saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said, and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
your party doesn't say it. Your party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
Socialist
right
health
now.
They're going to dominate you, Joe.
So this is our first time. Restreaming content because Tim just figured this mechanism out. We have to look into the rules, but I believe it's like we can't let this go for more than a minute without talking. So because we can't be restreaming CNN.
Yeah, that's fine.
YouTube stuff.
So this particular clip I thought was interesting for a couple reasons. One, it's talking about their healthcare plans, which is one of the few times in this debate where they did both provide some sort of substance and some numbers and conversation. This was early on in the debate, first 10 minutes, and that was the most civil part of the debate.
Right.
So
that's what I was going to say. Early on, the debates actually didn't look bad, especially like the first question Trump answered. It was actually articulate, restrained, to the point.
Yep, I thought so too.
And then I was like, okay. And then it just went sideways.
My takeaway from this, though, is Trump was kind of starting to do what he did through most of this, which is kind of mislead and misstate things, and used very charging language. Like, again, he's saying, your party's trying to put in socialist policies, right? Like using very strong language to push division and push those feelings of people. So in this particular case, and he repeats it even after corrected by Biden, he keeps saying that Biden wants to take away 180 million people's private insurance that they're happy with. And to me, that is such a bullshit statement. First, he doesn't want to take it away. He's leaving in the ability for people to have private insurance. And second to that, only 180 million people currently have private insurance. So he's basically saying every single person is completely happy with that insurance.
Yep.
And I don't think that's true either. So it's just all around, a very misleading statement.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you have anything to say about that, Chris. You want to jump in there?
Yeah, I like to believe that we all can agree that our health insurance system in this country is absolutely dysfunctional. Like the idea of how, the reality is most Americans are making, let's say the median income is like $40,000 to $80,000 a year. That means like you don't have the opportunity to just go buy private health insurance outside of your company. You're going to buy it within the company that you're working for, meaning that you're very slow. And you can switch companies. Sure, you can switch companies if you want to find a better health insurance, right? I'm not saying you can't do that, but the reality is,
or upgrade within the company.
But even then,
it's very limited.
That's so limited.
There is an upgrade usually.
Are you kidding me? When I was in Teach for America, like one of the best companies to work for in terms of benefits, I was paying $200, $300 a month for health insurance. And then when I had to go to the doctor, I was still paying shit for health insurance. I was like, what do you mean I still have to pay this? Like, I pay every month. And so I literally went back to my foster kid health insurance. I was like, I'd rather have limited doctor access, but not have to pay all of this because this is insanity. My girlfriend's the same way. She works for a really good company. And I remember we had to go in for we had to walk into a walk-in clinic because of her tooth or something, and they charged her $400 for an x-ray when she pays a ton of money and has one of the best health insurance programs you can imagine. So it's just the health insurance in this country is trash. I'm sorry. It is total. I'm not saying let's go socialist on it, but it's trash. We need revisions.
Oh, that reminds me of something that Trump said that was actually pretty good. Now, regardless of, if Biden wins, hopefully he picks up on this. I don't care who does this, but he was talking about one of his policy prescriptions. I believe this was in his ending statement. He said one of his policy prescriptions going forward is going to be itemized. He said the way that he phrased it was billing transparency in the medical field, right? So basically the idea that you get an itemized receipt for the things that you received, right? Standardizing prices in the medical industry so that you don't get a $10,000 bill for an ambulance ride, because. Well, right? I hear all the time stories of people asking for itemized receipts, and suddenly it goes from $10,000 down to $2,000 because they're just charging you.
I think too. Something Biden put forward in the debates that I actually really agreed with is an overall cap on your total amount of income that is allowed to go to health insurance. So, for instance, not more than 10%. Same thing with student loans, right? No more than 10% of your income can go towards public student loan payments. I think that's a good way to look at health insurance, right? You shouldn't not more than 10% of your overall income, like should have to be, which means which most people aren't going to hit. It's when, let me give you an example. I have a friend who has no choice. Like they have Crohn's disease, right? So they did everything you're supposed to do, Nathan. They got their bachelor's degrees, they got their master's degrees, they became a teacher, they got health insurance, they paid off their debt while they went. She pays $890 a month for her health insurance because of Crohn's disease. And it's not until she's hit like $5,000 that it drops to $600 a month. Like, and there's no way around this. She's looking at other health insurance.
So in a vacuum, or say in the world that we exist in, this sounds horrible, but tell me what Crohn's disease would do to her body if she didn't have that care. What would happen to her?
She would die, but she shouldn't have to like suffer. She shouldn't have to have her quality of life diminished as someone who's contributing so much to society.
I agree. I agree.
$800 a month, dude.
My point.
Your paychecks. A teacher only makes $1,200 every 2 weeks.
I understand. So my point is that we have an amazing medical system, right? And it is that way because we have a relatively prosperous medical system that can afford research and development. I'm all for lowering the prices where it makes sense, right? But she is alive because of that stuff, right? And so, like, I feel like a lot of times when we talk about this, we come from a place of like ungratefulness, like, oh, we need to give that to her, instead of thinking about, wow, isn't that amazing that she's alive? Like, she's literally being held alive by the amazing medicine that this country has developed in the current system.
Or it's like, well, if you don't pay $800 a month, you're going to die. I mean,
yeah, that's how she would have died without this medical system, this current one, the one that we hate so much.
No, she would have survived in many, many, many other countries. That it's not because of our shitty system. And your stance is basically, oh, sorry,
that's not my stance.
Luck.
That is not my stance.
If you can't take care of yourself, fuck off.
No, that is not my stance. My stance, so she can afford it, yes?
Right now, she's employed and she's able to afford barely. I mean, think about it, dude. $800
so what if
a
she
month.
Loses her job?
I hope seriously, I hope she starts a GoFundMe so that I can help her out.
You hope her GoFundMe account takes off? Is that what she should have to go through?
What do you mean? Is that what she should have to go through? Would you rather she died?
No, I would rather that we had a system in place that would help take care of her.
I'd rather,
regardless on if she was employed or not.
Okay,
yeah, I get it.
So we don't really have time to get into the socialized healthcare medical debate tonight. That's a really good topic. We should do that sometime. Tim and I actually got into that. We got into that pretty. I remember we stayed up to like 2 a.m. one day talking about that. Yeah. That's a fun conversation.
I'm here for it.
We'll research up on that. We'll do that maybe in a couple weeks or something. Maybe
I was really surprised at all the different ways you were able to be wrong in that conversation.
You mean right? I was just so right. It was astounding. Okay.
One more thing that Trump said in this statement that I thought is worth pointing out. When Biden was talking about his healthcare plan, he said, under your proposal, talking to Trump, 100 million people would lose access to healthcare because of pre-existing conditions. Now, I know Trump's come out and said that he won't get rid of pre-existing conditions, and he recently signed the executive order. But from a legal standpoint, he's trying to remove the requirements currently for pre-existing condition protection that is in place under Obamacare. If they repeal Obamacare completely, there is nothing in place legally to keep these companies from going back to the old way where they could refuse you coverage. So Trump has said that he will protect that, though. So I don't want to defend or act like he hasn't said that, because he has said he would. But anyway, Biden said 100 million people would lose coverage or would be ineligible for coverage because of pre-existing conditions. And Trump said that's a lie. He said that's not true. You know, you're lying, you're whatever.
Yeah.
So I looked into it, and in 2017, the Department of Health put out a study that said 133 million Americans fall into that category. So Trump's Department of Health, as he was president, put out a report.
Half the population.
That said 133 million people would fall into the category of being ineligible based on pre-existing conditions. So,
according to what?
The Department of Health, U.S. Department of Health.
What? I don't believe that. I'll drill into that. I'm sorry. Okay, Tim wins, but maybe next week I'll come back with, hey, I found an article that says that was absolutely stupid. Half the American population doesn't qualify for insurance. You're automatically wrong. Like, you're automatically wrong. Like,
why?
Because 180 million people have insurance. You telling me that those 100 million people insurance didn't come around before Obama made the Affordable Care Act?
You can get insurance through your job.
To be fair,
because you're getting insurance through a group policy. You're not eligible to go out and buy an individual policy. Or if you are eligible, you have to pay an exorbitant amount, or what it used to be was they won't cover costs for any of the conditions.
Wait, so you're telling me you have to pay a high price? You have to pay a high price for the massive service that you're asking for?
That's not the main contention. That's part of it, but the main contention is sometimes they will refuse you coverage at all, and then the majority of the time they will offer you coverage, but you are not covered for any of the issues that were pre-existing. So if you had a heart problem and you went to go get coverage, they would say, sure, we'll cover you if you stub your toe, but if your heart acts up again, you got to pay for that. That's how the policies were.
Right. Are insurance companies charities?
No, they're insurance companies.
Right. What's their job?
Their job is to smooth out the risk for people.
Money.
I just want to say, Nathan, you're pushing
again. You're going back to the argument.
Let Chris talk. Chris has been very polite.
You're pushing this further and further as to why we shouldn't have a for-profit insurance company in our country. We should not have for-profit healthcare. Like, the idea that the bottom line is the top priority, that is insanity. That is like why people's lives are.
Let me ask you then: are insurance companies charities?
They should be, because at the end of the day, it's like there are people in this world that our lives should not be equated to money. Like we are.
But it is at the end of the day.
No, but it shouldn't be. What
do you mean it shouldn't be? You can't just say that, right? Because the services that you receive have a dollar value. Somebody out there who made that service or that drug needs to feed their kids, right? So the service has a value.
They don't need to be able to buy their kid yachts. So Nathan, a question:
having publicly regulated healthcare would definitely help this out. People would still make their money. You'd still have wealthy people. It would just simply.
I don't care about wealthy. I'm talking about the people on like the assembly line for the pills. Like, that's where all the cost comes from.
Yeah, why would that go away if we just make this if we make this nonprofit? Why would someone lose their job just because we switch a government?
Why is the private sector better than the government? We don't have time for that conversation tonight. We don't. We legitimately like
Nathan.
We can do Ayn Rand. We can do all the big whatever it is. We can do socialism versus capitalism or whatever it is. But I mean, frankly, that's too big.
So, are you against the policies that protect people from being excluded based on pre-existing conditions, or having pre-existing conditions excluded from their coverage?
So I'm free market as much as I can be. And then there's like small things that creep along that I just decide it's not worth fighting against. And that's one of those things, because I think...
Okay, so idealistically, you're against it. You just don't argue it because nobody believes you?
No, I don't argue it because I think that despite the fact that free market capitalism is a good principle, sometimes you can nudge capitalism, right? So like, for example, anti-monopoly laws, not free market, but probably has a pretty good impact on the market, right? It promotes it allows startups to take over. So I do think there are some let's say necessary evils against the God strategy of free marketism. How does that sound?
Okay, so I like protection, something you're for, even though it affects the bottom line of the company.
Yes.
or raises everybody else's rates. Because obviously the company is not going to impact their bottom line. They're just going to charge everybody else more.
Yes. Next
socialist.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right, let's move on. What else? Chris, did you want to talk about something specifically in the debate? I know there's some stuff that you wanted to tear into.
Absolutely. One of my favorite comments of the night was when, well, first I just want to say, I realize this is indulgent, but it was so cathartic to hear like Biden tell Trump to shut up. Like, I really needed that. Like, I don't know how to tell you, like, it felt good, dude. But anyways, my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes, there's many of them. We already tackled Hunter Biden, but another good one is Trump going and saying, you graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word, because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years and you've done nothing. So to be fair, Biden did graduate on the lower half of his law school class, which is what he was getting at. So it's not incorrect, but it's just like so wild to me. It was just like, dude, you need to slow down.
Kind of surreal, honestly.
I don't know why Biden didn't come back and say, you know, you paid someone to take your SAT. So what do you have to say? Like, you need to keep your mouth shut, Mr. Trump.
I guess he took the high road on that one. I don't know. Is that it, Chris?
Yeah, I think it really is high road. I think with a lot of this, I
doubt it. I don't think he took the high road.
I think he was trying. He didn't take the emotional reaction that Trump was hoping for. Like, Trump was hoping for Biden to just get as crazy as he was, and Biden. You know, there's a few moments he's like, you're the worst president the United States of America's ever had. That was awesome. But in reality, he held his composure.
Right. So, all right. So I guess I'll take the next one. So one of the biggest issues that I had last night is that Trump just could not. It's like I for the past 4 years, I've been standing between the left and the right, not necessarily as a centrist, but I guess, no. I've been standing between the left and Trump saying, whoa, you don't understand him, right? Just relax. He's not a white supremacist. Please just relax. And last night, President Donald Trump was given a straight down the middle, like a nice soft 78 mile per hour pitch right over the plate, where Chris Wallace asked him, I forget what the exact words was, but it was basically,
if you want me to play it.
You have it? You have the white supremacist clip? Please play that.
Find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other.
Doesn't sound like it.
It's this one.
Guard would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence?
Okay, so first of all, this was a good question until he said "and militias," right? So I understand to some degree, and I'll actually agree with Chris a little bit more than you think I do, that the militias obviously really need to stand down. But the problem with this question, and I think the reason why this whole thing got derailed, was because he added "and militias," right? If he had just said, "Can you condemn white supremacy?" I think Trump probably, who can fucking tell? I think Trump probably would have laid this up. Like, he would have said, yes, totally. Right? But instead, Chris Wallace says, will you condemn white supremacists and militias? And then it gets more confused after this, but go ahead, keep going.
Did he say condemn, or did he say...
He said condemn.
Or ask them...
Like, fully grown man... I'm sorry if he can't interpret words from a moderator correctly.
No, all right, let's get through it so that we can get the whole context.
I'll rewind it just a couple seconds and see if he says condemn.
Supremacists and militia groups, and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So he's not. I didn't rewind it far enough, maybe, but the way I interpret it was like tell him to not be violent, basically.
Yeah, but so you're saying that the conflation between militias and white supremacists is the same thing? Because those are two different things.
No, I agree they're different.
Extremist groups.
Let me see.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they
you see what I'm saying?
To stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing
to
do
specifically
that,
do it?
Okay, pause.
I would say,
sure, I'm willing to do that. Just remember that, Chris, right? Chris, you listening? Sure, I'm willing to do that.
That was Trump rhetoric. Sure, I'm willing to do that. That's Trump
right, does
saying,
that mean no?
I'm not listening to your question.
No.
We had a few comments.
Okay, no, you're reading into that. Now you're reading into that. Those are not the words.
As many times as I've said, Trump said this, and you say, no, if you actually read into what he's trying to say.
Right, because I know
when
what
I
he's
read
trying to
into
say,
it,
you don't,
it's wrong.
because you don't like him.
You're a trained ear, yeah. Okay.
But the thing is that, he's like, sure, I guess I'll do that. He wasn't like affirmative, and we needed an affirmative, explicit, like, yes, like, but then the next line, I'm going to get ahead of myself. Do you have the Proud Boys line coming up? Like, let's
we do. Rewind it a couple of seconds. I'm going to stop interrupting you. Let's just blow through this whole thing, then we can talk about it.
We can interrupt it. We'll kick it back to...
Looks good.
Whatever.
Sorry, everybody.
You want to call them... What do you want to call them?
Kenosha, and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing
to
do
specifically
that,
do it? Well, go ahead,
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Hey, he said he's willing to do anything. I guess, that means
keep going.
He's willing to do anything.
Do it. Say it. You want to call them... What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
right like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right wing.
Okay, stop. We're done. So he's making my job really freaking hard.
Stand down, stand by. To a literal right supremacist organization.
Proud Boys are not white supremacists.
They totally are.
No, they're not. Who told you that? Vox?
Just go look up let's look up their stuff.
Okay. From them, not from Vox.
Talk it out. I'll look it up. You can't say from them because you make BLM comments
Proud
all
Boys
the time.
are an overzealous group that was started by Gavin McInnes, who's not a white supremacist. Their whole thing was just being what they called Western chauvinist, which sounds worse than it is. It just means sort of like men living in the hipster style or the 1950s style. Like we're okay with being breadwinners and what like being men. Like it's okay to be men. Like that's literally how the Proud Boys. That's why it's called Proud Boys. It's like it's okay to be men, and you can live as a man, like a manly man. Not that they all are. And it went off the rails a little bit, but they're not. They're still not centralized around white supremacy at all. That's not what they are. They are mostly at this point just an anti-left male organization. That's it.
So they're Republicans.
So from the Southern Poverty Law Center, a direct line from someone that they Brian Brathod, who is some weird ass name, it's a co-host of the anti-Semitic Daily Show. He basically says McInnes has crafted the term Western chauvinist, which is just a PR term, and if we're pressed on the issue, I guarantee you that 90% of us would tell you something along the lines of Hitler is right, gas to Jews.
Yeah, what? I mean, that's just not true. I don't know.
But it's like if the shoe fits, wear it, dude. It's like the literal members of this organization are out here saying these things, and yes, they are representing large factions of this organization. It's white. What do you want them to do, man? Just wear like KKK hats, start burning crosses on the front lawn? Is that the only thing that qualifies as racism in the Republican world?
Right. So so you have one source and you're condemning the entire movement. So one BLM person tried to burn down the courthouse in Portland. The whole fucking thing is off. You're done. No more BLM.
Well, that's the exact argument I was going to make is, from both sides, you either have to only hold the organization accountable for what they say officially through their, official sites and Twitters and what they drive their members to do, and not what somebody saying I'm associated with them and I did this or said this says. And you can't have it both ways. And so, Nathan, you have a lot of times in the past said, BLM stands for this and is violent and is doing that and the other. And it's not who they are as an organization. It's what their supporters are doing. And you're holding BLM accountable. And Chris, you stood up and said, no, BLM doesn't support this. That's not who they are. It's just these radical people that say they're part of it that are doing it. So you both are arguing out of both sides of your mouths. You have to decide which, position you're going to take.
So for example, in the case of BLM, when a significant portion of the demonstrations turn into riots, then you can say, okay, well, maybe there's something underlying within the movement. Like maybe there is
significant portion.
The leader of this dude, Gavin McInnes, straight up says in an embassy interview, I'm not a fan of Islam. I think it's fair to call me Islamophobic. He then goes, Palestinians are stupid. Muslims are stupid. And the only thing they really respect is violence and being tough. Why don't we talk about Bethlehem? Why don't we take back northern Iraq? Why don't we start our own crusades? That's what the crusades were. They weren't just someone picking on Muslims for no reason. They were a reaction to Muslim tyranny. We finally fought back. These are 3 separate injuries. I can keep going. I have more and more. Dude,
and those are all out of context. Listen to me. I listened to Gavin McInnes for years. The dude is hilarious. What he's doing right there is triggering people like you. He literally doesn't mean exactly what you think he means.
But his followers do believe this shit. Another one.
Don't. No,
Proud Boys founder.
I am closer to a Proud Boy than you are. I understand them way more than you.
Or right? You're blind to what the people that are further into
that trolls people like you into thinking that they are what they are. Because you already think that about them.
Proud Boys founder records video titled, I kid you not, 10 Things I Hate About the Jews in 2017.
Yeah. You should watch that video. It's fucking hilarious. The entire point was that people like you would watch that title and see that title and freak out.
Because
there's nothing anti-Semitic in the video. It's fucking hilarious.
That's a problematic title. It's
not. It's literally a joke to troll people who are PC. That is the entire point. And you're biting it right now. Hook, line, and sinker. You're just taking that shit. You're just going with it.
But if it's truly comedy across the line, if it's all comedy, then that's fine. But it's likely not in a lot of situations. That video may be purely comedy. I haven't watched it. And I think comedy should be protected and people should ease up and stop being so hurt by it. But at the same time, you can't use comedy as a cover for everything. Trump tries to use sarcasm and comedy to cover up a lot of his bullshit that he says that's blatantly wrong. Here's a great example. In the debate, I got to go back to data.
Chris, sorry for yelling.
In the debate, Biden talks to him about injecting bleach, and Trump says he was saying it jokingly, right?
I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your 2 words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slawi, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left or...
Yeah, just so we stay legal, right? I'll talk for a minute. Sorry, Mike, this clip leads into the next thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about both. But this is an interesting one to also talk about. Two of Trump's top advisors from the medical side, the CDC director and the head of his Warp Speed program, both are telling him that for the general public, these vaccines aren't going to be available until summer/spring of next year. And he just doesn't want to believe it, so he denies it and comes out to the public and says, well, this is what I think, so this is what it is.
He doesn't say this is
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so but that's he doesn't say this is what I think. He says I talked to the companies, to the heads of the companies, and they say it's going to be out a lot sooner.
Yeah, because I'm sure the CDC director and the head of the Warp Speed program didn't talk to those vaccine companies at all. They're just making it up. And they wouldn't know better how to interpret the data or the comments from those companies. Trump would, right? So his thoughts on what they're saying is more valid.
It's not data. So I don't know who's right on this. I hope Trump's right. Everybody here should. Okay, but everybody here should hope he's right. It doesn't mean blind.
Great. Well, I hoped the shit would go away in April when it got warm, but it didn't.
Okay. Right. That was Dr. Fauci.
Hoping and preparing and understanding what we need to do in case these things don't happen, that Trump's miracles, then we need to be prepared. And the way he talks and the way he uses rhetoric and denying things that all the scientists and even his specialists are saying is not helping.
Okay, but if he had that conversation with the company, what's he supposed to do? If he actually had that conversation and the president of the company did say that to him, what's he supposed to do for people like you?
He should probably go back to the people running his Warp Speed program and the head of the CDC and say, hey, I have conflicting information. Let's sit down and talk about this and figure out why we're on a different page.
What if it turns out it is political?
Huh?
What if it turns out that it is political and that they won't put out those statements because they think that it will politically hurt Trump?
Yeah, that's, you know what, it probably is part of the conspiracy that everybody in the country is against Trump except him and his few supporters.
Right. Yeah. Like all those FBI agents that targeted him unduly, knowingly unduly with a fraudulent FISA application.
Mm-hmm.
Not to circle back, but I really just want to double down on a comment from before, because while I've been listening to you guys, I've been reading the transcript of this 10 things I hate about Jews. And I'm sorry, man, this isn't funny. I don't find this funny. Hebrew is a spit talk. Whole language is clearing your throat. It's like Gaza. They're launching little tiny missiles from your mouth out to your shirt. He says that Jews are not grateful enough to America for defeating Nazi Germany, saying, sorry, we didn't do it in time, but we still saved you. It's like a black guy going, yeah, white people did slavery. Well, they didn't start it, but they did end it, so maybe be a little bit more positive about it. I'm sorry, but that's not funny to me. It's like, I don't find that funny.
Sarcasm.
South Park. Okay, South Park is funny.
I'm not going to convince you tonight, but you have to understand that you are actively and currently letting yourself be trolled.
Sure,
I promise you. I listened to this guy for years on end. I am the person who watched this guy's videos. I understand what he's about and what he's doing there.
And I think you're a competent individual that knows, like, obviously that, like, people are equal in this world and we're not hating on Jews. But I think that you might be an exception. I imagine a lot of his supporters are listening to these things and believing it, or over time chipping away and be like, yeah, you know what?
You're reading a transcript. You need
to the point
you need to understand where he's been coming from. Like,
to the point he's making, that is true.
A firebrand satirist. Sorry. That's
a lot of people believe this stuff.
I'm not saying that there's no white supremacy in this country. Gavin McInnes is not one of them, and has explicitly said that many times.
So maybe he isn't, but maybe a lot of his followers are. Again,
you would have to be an 80 IQ individual to take his shit like that. And I'm not saying you're reading a transcript. You would have to watch a bunch of his stuff. Like, if you watched a bunch of his stuff with me, you would disagree with a whole bunch of it because it's not it's making fun of your side of the aisle quite often. But
Look,
you would understand that he's being satirical.
I used to laugh at Tosh.0, right? Like, I'm not against dark humor type things, but this is not.
That's what it is.
This is not funny, dude. Like, this is, and
Not
also
you.
radicalizing people.
It's not.
Well,
listen.
table it a
It's
little
not.
bit. Look
You
into it.
cannot watch Gavin McInnes and get radicalized because like that would be like taking any like it's pretty basic stuff. It's like taking satire seriously. That means you're stupid and you're going to do stupid things anyways. So I like you can't put out YouTube videos thinking, like, oh, I can't be satirical because people, like, really stupid people are going to take me seriously. Like, you can't really behave that way. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do anything satirical ever.
I think we should all watch the video at some point.
Sure.
Watch it again, and
Yeah, you're going to need a
let's
little bit
watch
more
it, and we can
context
talk
than just
about
the video. You're going to need to watch, like, I don't know, 10 of his videos to try to get the flavor of it.
Yeah, I'll see if I can stomach it, or maybe I'll think it's funny. Who knows?
It's some pretty old stuff. 2016, I think. He got kicked off of YouTube, I think, actually.
Oh, did he?
Yes. I think it was for his association with Proud Boys, which is kind of funny because he started it, and then they got a little weird, and then, like, since he was the founder of it, even though he wasn't involved with it anymore, then he got kicked off of YouTube, I think. I don't know. It's been a while. I probably shouldn't talk about it. I don't remember exactly what went down.
Well, let's get back to the Bleach comment.
Yeah.
This one's...
I don't know if I
So
call him
you're
left. I don't know
suggesting
what
that
I
the
call him.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Smiley?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available.
What about
He
that
said
right
it's
there?
a possibility that we'll have the answer.
He said,
he
I
was
had him in my
contradicting.
office 2 days ago. He said it could be then or it could be much sooner.
Yeah, it's not like he doesn't make shit up ever when it suits him.
Okay, but now you're just
November
disbelieving everything he's saying. So, like, why play anything he's saying?
No, that's not the case.
First, it could also
I'm
be
talking about when
after
it's
that.
generally available. not when
Well,
it would
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This is
delivering.
the
to
same man.
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
By Easter, this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically.
That was
you
him.
know that.
Okay, so do you think it was said sarcastically, Nathan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's
Trump
watch
is a
it and
comedian.
see if it sounds sarcastic.
And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It must just be sarcasm that goes over my head because I'm not close enough to his side. I don't
he
know
not
where he's coming
Smiling
from.
right there at the end.
Dude, it wasn't sarcastic at
Was
all.
he
The
not
comment
smiling
the
right there
comment
at
he
the
made
end?
right before this, was getting UV light into your system through the body, and he had the same demeanor.
Yeah,
and the
that was
same
actually, there was
approach.
apparently a treatment that was looking at doing exactly that.
Yeah, that wasn't sarcastic. So my point is, he went from that to injection of disinfectant in the exact same tone, the exact same talk, looking and talking to the exact same doctors that are off to his side with no change in demeanor. It wasn't sarcasm. And to say it's sarcasm is to ignore either the way he's talking or have another source where he said it again that you're going to come back and you could say it was. And this is the first time he said it, and this was not sarcasm. It became sarcasm when he realized how much of a moron he was for saying it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I mean,
we'll see.
Gold star for you. Still think it was sarcasm. All right, what else?
in
What
the
else we
same
got?
way that, like, we can't, to use your logic against you, you're just like, if we're gonna, we are going to go into this not disbelieving everything Trump says, just even though he has a huge record of lying. Like, okay, we're actually taking the time to dissect these things. You also can't just say, like, whenever something is like absurd, that Trump meant to be satirical, because like I think the dude actually is like a bit like he's missing some brain stuff going on. Like the dude really, Tim, I don't think you could have made a more compelling case there. You like, here's the tone, here's the facts, here's how he said it. Like the reality is, it's not like Trump was like, yeah, man, just throw some freaking bleach in your arm, and that, like, no, he was like, yeah, maybe bleach, like some, right? Like it's
so
he was
so okay. So number one.
Go ahead.
So I hate, we said this before the podcast, Tim. I really am not a fan of Trump's rhetoric, right? Regardless of whether he was or was not being satirical here, I have a real big problem with his rhetoric. And, you know, we were talking about that with the race thing. Did we get off the race thing? I thought I didn't even finish my points on that. Anyways, I have a big problem with his rhetoric. But, I mean, what happened from that? Remember, there was a whole bunch of articles coming out about how, like, poison control calls went up during that month, like, because people were ingesting cleaners or some bullshit.
Yeah, I'm not. So first off, yeah, you have a problem with his rhetoric, but this isn't about how he talks or what he says in public, and how he, you know, doesn't say the facts. He kind of beats around them and is always just talking about woe is me. That's different, right? This is showing his inability to comprehend the data and the situation and how things are happening around him. And that drives decisions that are being made. And second to that, the biggest reason that I wanted to show
that
this,
shows ego. It doesn't show lack of
understanding. The biggest reason that I wanted to show this wasn't about showing that he was ignorant about how disinfectant could or couldn't be used in the human body. The reason I was showing this is as a clear-cut example of how he says things that are untrue, that he knows are untrue, or that he doesn't know that are wrong, and later, rather than admitting it or correcting himself and providing the right data to people, he has to blame it on something else, either a joke or sarcasm or other things. And this can extend into his comments where he's consistently saying, I deserve a third term in office because people are, because of the way they treated me in my first term. And, you know, we've talked about this a few times, and your retort to that is constantly, he's joking. He doesn't really mean it. He's not being serious. But this is a great example of how, yeah, he's very much serious. And when he says, oh, I'm just joking, it's him covering up for his lies and his bullshit. And he does it all the time. But for some reason, his supporters want to ignore that and not pay attention to it and just believe everything that he says and every defense that he throws out there. So I thought this would be a good example.
Right. Okay. So, but this is like a non-consequential example is the problem.
It doesn't matter if it's consequential.
So, but demonstrating that it's here doesn't mean it happened elsewhere. It's more likely that it happened elsewhere, but I mean,
Nathan, like,
yep.
Would you be okay if Donald Trump was your direct manager at your work right now?
I'd be making a lot of money.
If your boss was Donald Trump, would you be okay with that?
I don't know. I have no idea because when people meet with him, like, so for example, I watched part of the interview with who was the second to last press secretary. What was her name? It's not Kayleigh McEnany. It's one before her. Huckabee Sanders. Yeah. So I listened to an interview with her, and she said she started relating this story where she said, we were at this meeting with the Japanese prime minister. You know, tensions were high, and you know there was no reason why he shouldn't have been focused on what was going to happen in that room ahead of us. But instead, he stopped and he turned to me and he said, "You know what, Sarah? The only reason why they come after you is because you're so good at your job." Right? So in moments like that, so what she's relating there is a story of how Trump is actually behind the scenes a very compassionate person, and you don't see it publicly. But I've heard so many of these stories that behind closed doors, like Trump is a very caring, enigmatic, warm personality, and that I think whatever's on the stage is a show. I don't not the dumbness. Like I'm, whatever you're talking about, with like not his like his verbal intelligence. Like it's not all a show, but like when he's up on the stage, he is a personality that he's playing. So to answer your question, Chris, I don't know if those stories are true. Like if she's not still propagandizing, even though she's out of a job, and the other people that I've heard talking about how warm he is in private, if that's the Trump that's real, sure, I'd have him as my boss. If the public-facing Trump was, that would be hell. That would be absolute hell. I would have to get paid a lot of money to keep up with that.
I guess
let's look at the turnover rate and see which one's more likely.
I guess my point is like, I mean, and also, there are lots of people like going against it, but just taking, hypothetical, let's like saying against the positive work culture, but let's just say hypothetically, Trump is like grandpa of the year behind closed doors, right? The reality is like this public facing Trump, it's like, even if my boss was public facing like that, but in behind closed doors was warm and butterfly, like, I'm sorry, dude, but it's like, I wouldn't want that dude being my coworker, my boss. Why are we okay with him running our country? Like, it's just, I don't know.
Because he's putting forward the policy prescriptions that I agree with. And it's, if we're all honest, that's what we care about. Like, you don't like Joe Biden. You don't like Joe Biden. Nobody likes Joe Biden. He's just not Trump, and he's a Democrat.
And I do. He has adopted progressive platforms. I think he's a remarkably resilient human being. I have disagreements with him ideologically. The dude has like literally lost his family and is still fighting for like, the things he believes in. To me, I'm like, you know what? I have a lot of respect for him. I have a lot of respect for Kamala Harris. So as a human being, so yeah, I would be happy working for or with either of those two people. I even before my funding came in, I applied to go campaign for Biden, like as a campaign manager. Obviously, I can't take that now because like I got funding. But yeah, dude, it's like I'm sorry, but it's like at what cost? At what cost are we allowing this like person to run our country? Even if you agree with this policy,
I agree. No, I agree with you, Chris. I do. Like. Well, I think about this a lot, actually, and this will probably interest you to know. I mean, I think about it constantly. So, like, okay, so at what point so to me, right? This is not you guys, right? So I'm the guy. I'm pretty sure I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I just have this guy. He's my guy. He's in office. He's doing my things, right? And so I look at him all the time, and every once in a while, I just hear a story about he's doing these really good things, like all of these Middle East peace deals, all the drawdowns in the troops, all of the domestic policies, him stopping the critical race theory being taught to the military, like all of these things that I absolutely love, and I'm glad he's doing, and I believe in like the economy, like all that stuff, and I believe that he policy wise has the country moving in a good direction, and that's why I'm ultimately going to vote for him. But I am always thinking about, especially recently, and especially after he missed that absolutely lovely layup that Chris Hayes gave to him about just denouncing white supremacy. Like, just do it, dude. The effect on the country is real. Even if I believe everybody has Trump derangement syndrome and you guys are just missing the point, right? Which is a frustration that I deal with daily, right? So I scroll down on Reddit and everybody's just missing the point constantly, and you're just focusing on his rhetoric. While I can say, should we run a country based off of the eggshell heads, like the people who just can't take this? Like, should we give into it? And I'm always very conflicted because the effect is real, whether I agree with it or not. Like, whether I think you're right about him or not, the effect that his rhetoric is real. Like, it is tearing the country apart to have Donald Trump as president, right? And that's because of his rhetoric. That's because he doesn't know how to polish his message. It's because he doesn't know how to relate himself. Like if I was him, it would have been the very first second that an accusation of white supremacy came across, I would have a full statement in full writing saying, I condemn white supremacists totally.
If you were him standing on that stage, you would be the most likely next president. Right.
Yeah, well, that goes for any of us here.
I think
like, you say if I were to, but similar to the Proud Boys, Trump supporters believe what he's saying. Not all of them, right?
Nah,
You're
I
one of
don't
the
know.
few that,
Dude,
you're one of the few that often don't.
no.
I see
Wrong.
videos all the time of these reporters going out and talking to Trump supporters, and they are 100% in belief of what
Cherry
he's
picking,
saying.
nut picking, as it were. I could do the same thing at a Black Lives Matter rally.
Sure, yeah. But my point is, when you're leading a group of people,
No, that is the point, dude. It is on both sides. There are nuts on both sides.
Yes, I agree with you.
That's why it's called
And
nut
so
picking.
when you have a leader that is very specific about how they talk and what they say, so that they don't incite those things and they don't drive the bad qualities in their supporters, even if they're joking or don't really mean it, that's important, especially when you're leading an entire country. Policy is important.
Right,
And
but
I don't disagree with Republican policy strongly at all. I probably side with it more often than Democratic. But I can't side with him as a president because it doesn't matter the policy if we're going to have a civil war over an election because of his rhetoric.
But but the reason why I'm conflicted is because the Civil War is not going to come from the right. The Civil War is going to come from the left.
The Civil War is going to come from the right if he loses.
That was another thing that I wanted to talk about.
I was just gonna say the election at the end, like he literally had another layup. Just say you'll
exactly. Yeah.
Just say you'll accept the election result.
Do we have that clip? Can we play that? We got to talk about that. So this is another thing. So those of you out there that are Trump supporters, like you got to remember that when he says dumb shit like this, like it's okay to say that he fucking missed it. Like he really fucking went off the script here. Like,
will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things.
Or it's not legal by state law, but, law and order and all that.
And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that
from
mean,
a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the
it means
street?
you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters?
Yeah, it was so bad. And I just want to fact check real quick because I did my fact checks ahead of time. The Philadelphia thing, if you want to go in Pennsylvania, if you want to go anywhere and you want, so you can look at the vote counts, you just go to the town registrar. It's not that hard to do. Also, the military ballots are Democrat and Republican ballots. This did happen. It was a major clerical error that were on the postal people's. It was not on the pollsters' responsibility on this, and they retrieved them and they fixed it. And it wasn't, and it was Democrats and Republican ballots. Like it would have hurt both sides. I'm not saying it's right, but like
you're talking about the ones that were dumped in the ditch.
No, there was accidental, like a bunch of military ballots thrown out because they thought they were already counted. But there was Democrats and Republican ballots in there, and then they. But no, he butchered this. All he had to say was like, yes, we know that it's going to be hard voting by mail, but it's our election system is trustworthy. We can rely on it when things are counted. We'll know what it is.
Literally, both sides are disagreeing with you right now. Both sides. Like your side is saying that he's deliberately fucking up the mail system, and then my side is saying that there's going to be massive election fraud. And I don't really believe in both. There's probably going to be like a tenth of a percent of what everybody's saying there's going to be.
In 2016, like 30% of votes were cast by mail. Like we never had a problem with that.
Up. Yeah.
Well, actually, in the debate, Chris said in 2018 30-something% of the votes were cast by mail.
He
wasn't talking about the presidential election. I think he was talking about the Senate or the House, whichever one. The 2016 presidential election, I've looked this up in the past, was like 24% of the ballots were through mail. But it's still a massive amount.
That's a massive amount. We'll be fine. Like, we'll be totally fine, especially because people have already been mailing in their ballots. It's not like everything's just getting hit by a wave on election day. It's happening a lot sooner. And it's also, I've met a few people that were running polls in some of these states. And also, let's be hyper conscious that Trump is calling out Pennsylvania. He mentioned Pennsylvania like twice in this debate because it's a swing state that he might lose. That's why he's calling out Pennsylvania. But I met pollsters, like every single ballot that you count has to go through 2 people. Like any state, like this is not a Connecticut person. This is someone who's out in Utah. Like every ballot gets hit by 2 people. That's why it's going to take so long for us to like see the election results. Like it is actually like a really high confidential procedure. It's not confidential.
Yeah, but each state is different,
which is why it's going to take so long. But the reality is that it's a trustworthy process. And
while we're on the topic, can I ask you, like, why can't we just vote in person? Like Dr. Fauci himself said that it's safe to do in person. Like if we just wear masks and social distance, we can vote in person.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fear comes in is that like most I don't know, man, when you go to vote in person, it's typically like the old retirees doing their like civic duty to hang out at the poll, like do that. And so we just they're just so worried about putting elderly at risk. I agree. I don't see the issue with voting in person as of right now, other than it's like, But,
okay, so my point is that we've injected, and this is largely driven by the left, we've injected a massive uncertainty variable into the election by standardizing mail-in voting. Right? Whether it's real or not, now there is less confidence in our
How many states have done it?
5,
but also with like what we knew at the time,
new states.
This is what we know now. You can't grade 2 months ago on current knowledge. We had to move forward with like, all right, yeah, this is probably what we should start. Like we should plan ahead of time. Also, the reality is
I can concede that we were in the middle of the second wave 2 months ago.
Also, let's be fair too. Like maybe in places like rural Missouri or suburban Connecticut, social distancing is going to work well. Have you seen like how voting in person works in New York? These are hour-long lines. California, hour-long lines. Any city for that matter. Like not even New York.
Right, but are the lines outside? If the lines are outside, then the risk is super low.
But it just creates too many probable causes of failure that we could avoid.
So are you telling me that massive gatherings outdoors are probably not a good idea during a pandemic? Like, say, a rally?
Yeah,
I totally agree. I don't think we should have had, I think it was Herman Cain. Herman Cain died because of rally, man.
That is a good pivot. I don't know. Look, man. I mean, I look at the excess mortality of COVID every day. It looks like we've reached the bottom of the next trough. I don't know if there's going to be a third wave, but like we're approaching what looks like no excess mortality, meaning the average amount of people that were dying last year is about what it is now. Like people are still dying from COVID. And it's not much.
Let's not put like the elderly poll workers on death sentence, right? Because
they chose to be there, right? I'm not saying they should die for being there. I'm saying like they chose to be there. If we see them, we should keep our masks way on, maybe put 2 on, stay far away from them. I'm just saying, it's all potential.
It's just
if people want to do mail-in votes, they should be able to. If they want to go in, great.
I do. I agree. But I think you should have to solicit it. That way there would be far less problems. Like you're not going to be any
the way it works in Ohio, where I live, is I've gotten like 5 of these in the mail now. It's saying, hey, solicit your mail-in ballot, right? It's telling me to ask for it. So I think that's great, right? It gives me the opportunity to ask for it. It's proactively putting it in front of me. So for those people that wouldn't think to do it, wouldn't go through the hassle of figuring out how to solicit it, it's right there for them to do. But you still have to solicit that ballot. That's a good compromise, I think.
I think too, just to get back to the beginning of this, we can all agree that Trump absolutely butchered his answer on how he could have gone about responding to this.
Yeah, I just needed to hear please remain calm. Like we're going to be monitoring the election and we will take care of any potential problems. If there's a problem, we're going to litigate it through the Supreme Court. I really would have loved him to be more articulate, but that's like asking, I don't know, a dog to not be a dog. I have no idea.
That wasn't about articulation. He completely,
I think it was.
No. His first response was, my supporters need to go out and stand at the polls and make sure that nothing shady is happening. Right? He's reinforcing the fear and reinforcing the fact that his supporters need to go out and actively engage other people in this process. That is the opposite of staying calm.
Remember the charged language thing you said? Like you're using charged language there. Actively engage.
Yeah, I am.
Watching is a pretty passive thing.
That's 100%.
Let's see if it stays that way.
He literally says words like fraudulent. Literally says, "Go follow the poll workers." Like these can't be misinterpreted. You're gonna have some like people in MAGA hats rocking out outside, like circling poll booths like they're vultures.
You know what? Listen, this is like the thing before. Like only one story of people ingesting hydroxychloroquine because President Trump said, actually happened, and it turned out that she just wanted to poison her husband. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys think that there's a bunch of doofuses just literally hanging on Trump's Twitter doing whatever he says at all times.
There are.
I don't think for you guys, I'm not going to convince you overnight. Maybe I'll never convince you, but the population of the really dumb MAGA Trump 2020, Trump, forever people, it's 5 people. It's really not a huge issue. It's not.
Well, then he's lying about his 35,000 supporter turnouts, huh? If it's only 5 people.
I have family members who've gone to that, and they're more like me than what you're thinking about.
So just as a comment to any Trump supporters that are watching, it is federally illegal to intimidate or otherwise impact voters at a voting station. So if you are going to go and be a poll watcher, probably don't wear a bunch of MAGA hats and other things to where it looks like you're a gang or a group of people that would be intimidating because you could be arrested for it. Go there, watch, make sure everything's happening fair, but don't gang up and stand in a group of all dressed the same, because if somebody feels intimidated and calls the cops, or if the polling location feels like you look intimidating, they can arrest you. So be careful.
And tell all our Trump supporters, I know you're smarter than that.
Have you watched videos of Trump supporters?
Oh, you mean the nut picking?
As Trump would say, I wouldn't use the word smart. Related.
I guess we'll see on election day what happens. But
we attract only the smartest watchers.
Yeah.
Only the smartest.
So here's another clip of Trump during the election.
Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have.
So this is a tweet from the sheriff of Portland saying, in tonight's presidential debate, the president said the Portland sheriff supports him. As the, I can't pronounce this, Multnomah County sheriff, I have never supported Donald Trump and will never support him. I guess Donald Trump just always tells the truth, though.
I don't know. Yeah, that sounds like you got him there. Definitely not going to contest that one. Interestingly enough, I thought the sheriff of Portland was the mayor. Like it was like a thing where they held a dual position. I guess I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, definitely a separation of those two there.
Maybe it's Seattle?
Did you read the second part of his tweet? By the way, it was kind of funny.
No, I didn't see it.
He said, Donald Trump has made my job a hell of a lot harder since he started talking about Portland, but I never thought he'd try and turn my wife against me.
Wait,
meaning,
was it his wife
No, meaning I guess that his wife is left or something, and Trump coming out and saying
oh
that
my God, that's hilarious. Oh my God.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny.
I don't know. So, I mean, listen, so there was horrible rhetoric coming from Biden too. Like we're wrapping up here. I kind of want to spend a couple of minutes after the 10 o'clock mark here, maybe see what's in chat. But I did want to say, like, so we've spent a lot of time on Trump, and because he spoke most of the time, and because as a Republican, I want to hold my leader responsible. But there was one thing that I did want to talk about with Biden, and this isn't the most juicy thing. This is what I have for now. So we'll just go with this. So
all the juice you can get.
Yeah. Okay. So let's read this. So this is a quote from Biden. This was him trying to, and I hate this when anybody does this. What's that?
This is from the debate.
This is from the debate transcript I have pulled up here. So, and I hate when everybody does this. I see this a lot on Reddit, and if I see it on Reddit and then Joe Biden is saying it, it's particularly egregious, right? So, let's see. Chris Wallace is asking him a question about COVID. I'm not gonna ask the question, but here's Vice President Joe Biden's response here. He says, good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about 750 to 1,000 people a day are dying. Right? And so, without even going further than that, just right there is a sort of like an egregious falsehood. Right, and it's egregious because it's wrong, factually incorrect, and B, it's also just like it just has this subtle jab of giving China the benefit of the doubt, China and Russia, right? Because if you look at China's facts right now, I wish I had this pulled up.
So wait, what part of it's wrong?
So the part of it that's wrong is that statistic takes China and Russia at their word. If you look at China's statistics.
Did it say that we're the worst? It just said that this is how many deaths we have, right? It doesn't say anything about China and Russia.
It doesn't, but he's taking the total population of the world. So he says, we in fact have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the world's deaths.
Yeah,
right. So that would mean like, everybody else is handling it better than us, right? That's what that means, right?
It means that everybody else has less deaths per capita than us, yes.
Right, which he's using to indict Trump. So my point is that that's incorrect because it assumes that China and Russia are reporting their statistics reliably.
Well,
also,
if you go by what Trump said, then China is extremely transparent and we should thank them for it.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad quote, isn't it? I don't like it. Not a fan of it. So look. So my point is that and I've been kind of looking at these. I don't have it to pull it up here. Hold on. Let's just do. Hold on. So you're taking the Chinese dictatorship at its word about how many people have died, and I'm trying to bring this up to show you. According to China, they've pretty much had no deaths from this, right? Which is a bald-faced lie, right? Because they want to save face to the world because they're a communist dictatorship. Oh, come on. Please come up. It's not loading. Okay. Well, sorry about that, folks. You're going to have to take my word for it. I will put a link to the excess deaths chart in the end. There will be a link to the chart. You can look for China, you can look for Russia, and you can look for India. And all three of them have unbelievably low rates of COVID.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's definitely some false reporting there. I'm not contesting what you're saying by any means, but with the known facts, the reality is, other countries have handled this a bit better than us. With that said, you're right. Yeah, Russia and China are just lying about what they're. Russia straight up is like, we have the vaccine. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have the vaccine, Russia.
I know. And then Putin said he gave it to his daughter. That must have been a lie because it obviously wasn't a good vaccine. I feel like he wouldn't have injected his daughter with some bullshit. He probably just said it. Did you hear that? Like Putin was like, "We have a vaccine. I gave it to my daughter." Like,
I think I actually had the clip of that quote you just said.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. All right. So, so in the future, we're all going to be able to have that fancy doohickey because, as usual, we have a pioneer over here who's figuring out all the technology for us. But so look, so to wrap that point up, so he goes after Trump, and like the implication is that like all of these COVID deaths, like, you know, like obviously not all of them, but like he's like 200,000 dead, like, and then he's like trying to make it like this is all Trump's fault, where like Biden was holding rallies into late March. Biden called Trump's travel ban from China xenophobic. Like he literally said that.
Yeah, so if you look into that, Biden didn't say that. Biden said that Trump is xenophobic and was not relating that to his Biden ban.
What's the implication?
Or to his China ban. Huh?
What's the implication?
If you want to go with implication and talk about what it actually means like to people when
right now,
says
like
something.
He meant that the travel ban was...
No. Okay, remember this conversation where somebody's interpretation of what the implication could be, now in this case it's you and you're going to believe yourself, is valid, because there's been dozens of times where you argued with me when I said Trump said this and you said no he didn't, and I said yeah that's what he means. No, that's not what he said. You took it literally.
Right, but you're making a false equivocation because I'm always right and you're always wrong. So
yeah, right.
Okay,
I know we're wrapping up, but I did have another one that I thought was worth a quick discussion.
Sure.
Uh-oh.
We'll try to get Chris on this. I feel like we've been edging you out here. Sorry, dude. And sorry for my volume, everybody. I don't know if I'm blowing anybody's speakers.
Can you guys hear that when I play it?
I'm not hearing anything.
I'm not hearing that either. I don't know why that's not playing. Hold on. Oh, I know why. Because I had the wrong thing selected. Alright, there we go. I gotta get the right time.
Surprise. Let me just tell you something. That there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care. All of the things that we've done, insulin. I give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know?
All right. So insulin's going to be as cheap as water. Should we just take him at his word, or should we read into it some?
I will say that this is something I would agree with Trump on, is that we should be allowed to purchase medicine from other countries. I think it's kind of wild that we haven't. I think even Bernie and Ted Cruz were in agreement on this in the Senate, and it didn't pass. And so, yeah, being able to buy drugs from Canada, for instance, is something that, you know, it's a progressive ideal, but it seems also like a vibe with the more libertarian ideal, like, you know, you shouldn't be restricted in just. Yeah. But the water for like insulin, that was a bad comment. It's like, all right, come on, slow down, Trump. Like,
he's being hyperbolic like he always is.
Oh, well, it's okay then for him, not for other people.
Like, we all exaggerate. Like, it's a million times worse. Like, we all exaggerate. Like water. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with his rhetoric in general, obviously, but
I fully agree that it's a good thing for us and him to be attacking drug prices in any way we can. Favorite nations, if that's the way we have to go, before we can actually get the prices lower in country, great, let's do it. But I thought that the comment that insulin is as cheap as water, or he says will be earlier, but then when he's talking about insulin, he says now it is. But I think that's
I was actually paying attention. He doesn't say now.
I think. I was going to say I still think it's fair to say he's still talking about it in the future. But yeah. I looked up current insulin prices in the country, and they range widely, but they go from about $90 to the extreme was like $1,300 a vial. but generally between 90 and 300. So if we take the low end, it's $90. The vial's 10 milliliters. That puts about 3,785 milliliters in a gallon, so 379 vials in a gallon. Anyway, at current prices, a gallon of insulin would cost you $34,000. If you cut the prices to what he's saying, 80, 90%, 70, 80%, that'd make a gallon of water cost $3,400.
You did the math, you son of a bitch. Jesus. That's awesome.
He's wrong. He's full of booty.
Listen, if he succeeds in this, I hope we can all just at least applaud it. Like, you know,
100%.
even if the country's burning down, insulin will be cheap.
Yeah, we could put the fires out with insulin.
Yeah, because it's as cheap as water. I love it. Full circle. All right. Was there anything?
It'd be like
I saw a bunch of comments in chat.
Yeah, we can tackle some comments.
All right. Let's see. So normally we have Tim threading in and out of the comment section, but he was particularly fired up tonight, so he was with us.
Yeah, that and it takes up my full screen to be able to do these videos.
Oh, yeah, we need to get you another monitor, homie.
I'm running two 24-inch monitors.
I'm just flexing. There's no reason to do that, man. It's okay.
But I just ran out of space, so I responded a few times, but yeah.
Tim, Chris, to Nathan's point, in a more dramatic sense, should every expense be paid to keep everyone alive if modern medicine can? So, okay, so all right, so interesting. So Daniel's making a point where he's making the point that we technically could keep every single person in the country alive till like past 90, right? Especially if you factored in things like, you know, just like keeping people who are in comas just on life support, right? You could just keep most people alive, you know, till 90 or 100. And so he's asking you to, like, at what point are you guys, because you guys are obviously being compassionate. You want to help people. You want people to get care that they need. And I understand that. Like, and I do too. I know it doesn't sound like it. I promise. You know, we can have this conversation someday. But, like, where is your guiding principle to where the cutoff limit is, right? And how do you determine when somebody's going to cost too much for the system?
Yeah, so I don't think it has to do anything with cost. I think it has nothing to do with cost for me. I think it comes down to, if someone's like on life support and it's agreed upon, it's like, all right, that's an extreme. But for people that are functioning members of society, even those who aren't, I think that we should grade ourselves on how we treat the lowest members. If somebody is not taking care of themselves, I think we owe it to ourselves as a humanitarian perspective to at least, like, you know, give them a running chance to survive. More in the median, right? Like this, these are the extremes. On one end, you have someone that's eating McDonald's every day, unemployed, who's choosing not to go to work, and on the other end, sorry, buddy. On the other end of the extreme, you have the life support people. But for the rest of the normal distribution, this whole part of the spectrum, it's like, I think we absolutely have a significant responsibility to do everything we can, with the cost aside, to make sure people are allowed to live and able to live. Like that's like, I don't know, that should be a benchmark of societal success. Is like, can we help our fellow people? Can we make sure that not only can we help them, but also not cripple them with the costs of helping them?
Yeah, I think this is such a tough conversation, and we need to do, and I hope we do it soon. Sure. We have so many podcasts we want to do. We only do one a week. You know, we just don't cover nearly enough topics. But this one kind of falls into the abortion conversation in a way. Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line where the fetus is a baby, is a life that needs to be protected? Right. That's the conversation you have with abortion. That's where, you know, everybody has their own line that they draw, and it's completely subjective to, you know, to who you are. So it's a tough conversation.
Two objective lines. There's one that's until birth, and then there's one that's at conception.
And those are the major ones, and but most people fall somewhere in between.
Right.
Where if it's in the first few weeks or month or, you know, until it has a heartbeat, is a common
I think there's a large contingent sitting on the conception line, probably Man, if I had to wildly guess, 30% of the country.
I'd
Mostly
say most
religious
people are
people.
at the heartbeat line. At least people that I talk to about it. Once it has a heartbeat, it's alive or something like that. But anyway, not to get off topic on that.
Right.
The healthcare conversation is the same. Where do you draw the line as far as the value of this life and if it's a life? And that's going to be a difficult conversation because it's completely subjective. But I do think that, as a society moving forward into, a culture that values life, we shouldn't make it difficult for people that are already in a difficult life situation, being in a poor family or losing their job or something like this happening, to have to completely bankrupt themselves for healthcare. Like Chris said, if you're talking about somebody on life support at the end of their life, is it worth spending X millions for a couple extra weeks or whatever? Those are the extreme conversations. But the conversation of, someone that has 3 kids and loses their job, and what are they going to do? Their kid falls down, gets hurt, and they have to remortgage their house to cover the medical bill. They're going to do it, right? And that's the argument me and you have had a lot, Nathan, and we can cover more in depth in a talk on this. But healthcare is not a free market because the demand and the supply and demand curves aren't related like that. If somebody gets hurt, the parents are going to pay for them. If you need to pay for something to stay alive, you're going to pay for it. It doesn't matter what the expense is. You will mortgage yourself, take out as much debt as you need to and worry about it later.
Okay, but
because of that, I don't think it can be a pure capitalistic approach.
Right. So there's a service that you are soliciting when you do that. Say when you're fixing Timmy's broken arm, you are soliciting the services of somebody who spent years and years of their life going into massive debt to be able to learn how to fix Timmy's arm.
Yeah, but we have firemen and policemen, and all of those are government controlled, and those are all services you're soliciting.
All right, we're getting into it. We shouldn't get into it. We're going to do a whole podcast on this, I promise.
Yeah. So to get back to the point of socialized healthcare there, and what your question was, everybody's going to draw their line differently as far as what you should or shouldn't pay for. And that's the challenge of making legislation on this topic. But that challenge isn't specific to just healthcare. It goes across the board on other things. And I think abortion is a great analogous example.
All right, Chris, you have any closing thoughts?
No. I mean, we can go on to another comment. Up to you guys. I'm going to hold off because a lot of things I would say, I think definitely we're set up to have a podcast on healthcare. So
for sure,
I'll hold my tongue right now because everything I have to say is out there.
Self-control, man. Me and Tim end up spinning each other up till 2 a.m. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I know we're going pretty late these nights. What's that, Tim?
One more comment that has been asked several times that we didn't cover in depth. Amanda asked early on, and Daniel reminded that she was asking for us to talk about our thoughts on Trump's comment saying he might not leave if he loses the election. So thoughts on that?
I do. So no matter what, he has to leave. There's really no choice there. It's like I can't imagine we're gonna hit like this dictatorial level of like child's play of there's not gonna be a military coup, none of that stuff. But I can foresee the typical. I can absolutely foresee Trump foregoing the typical transition of peace, like ceremonious events that occur. I really can see him foregoing that if he was to lose.
I could see him being a bad loser, a sore loser, for sure. Absolutely, I could see that 100%. Dude's got a big ego on him. But I think the idea of, and this is not what you said, Chris, so obviously I'm not aiming this at you, but I think the idea of like a Trump having to be dragged kicking and screaming out of the Oval Office by the military is like, it's like kind of like a leftist wet dream. You know what I mean? Like it's something that you don't actually want, but you kind of want to see it. You know what I'm saying? Like you just you think that he's so bad that like I kind of just want to see him get, you know, like the catharsis of seeing this guy who we think is a fascist get dragged out of office. So I don't. I've heard his comments on it. Dude's could be clearer. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Like, as long as there's nothing genuinely nefarious going on in the election, there shouldn't be a problem. And then if there is something nefarious going on in the election, we have the Supreme Court to mediate that.
Exactly. And even just to that point, let's just say, like, you know, January rolls around and we haven't decided upon a president because it's contested, then Nancy Pelosi just becomes the president. Hey. So it's like, my side's happy with this. Like, so no matter
She's
what,
older than both of them. Isn't she 80?
I want Nancy.
We're gonna have Nancy in the White House.
That'd be crazy. What a story.
I don't think Trump's going to. Yeah, I'm kind of on board with you, Nathan, in the part where I don't think he's going to say, "Yeah, I lost, but I'm not leaving."
Yeah.
You know, I think it's more likely that he's just going to refuse to admit he lost, regardless if there's any evidence of nefarious activities or not. He's going to say, and he's already said it. He's like, if I lose the election, obviously it was rigged or cheated or whatever, right? I don't remember his exact wording, but yeah, he basically said the only way I lose is if there's corruption in the election. So
hey, listen, I'll say it right now, guys. I'm on your side if he doesn't go. Like, if he lost and he doesn't go, I'm on your side 100%.
Yeah, so I think what's going to happen is if Biden ends up winning, he's not going to say, "Yeah, I lost, but I'm not leaving. People still want me." He's just going to say, "Look, this election was rigged. It wasn't legit. I'm still president. They cheated. We need X, Y, Z, whatever to try and stay in office." But how he ends up getting out of there, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see.
I guess over the Proud Boys.
All right, everybody. Again, thank you for hanging out. I know we went a little late tonight. We just had a great conversation, I think. I got a little heated, but so I guess we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging out.
Peace out, guys.
See you. Thanks.